Hey there and welcome. You know, our world is just full of these little chemical reactions we never think about, like the sour tang of a lemon or even just the slick feel of soap. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the secret life of acids, bases, and salts. And trust me, they're hiding in plain sight all around your home.
All right, so let's jump right in with a little mystery. Picture this. You spill some curry on your shirt, right? You've got that bright yellow turmeric stain. But when you go to wash it, something really weird happens. It flashes this brilliant red color. Why does it do that? Well, stick with me because by the end of this, you are going to be the detective who cracks this exact case.
Okay, so to solve our mystery, we first need to meet our two main suspects, acids and bases. And we're going to start with how they first introduce themselves to us, to humanity, through our senses. So on one side, we've got acids. Just think of things like lemon juice or vinegar. It's probably no surprise that the word acid actually comes from a Latin word, acere, which means sour. And yep, that's their defining taste. Then, on the other side, we have bases. These are the bitter ones, and if you were to say, rub a little baking soda and water between your fingers, it would feel really soapy. And what's so cool is just how common these things are. I mean, citric acid, that's what gives your orange juice its kick. Lactic acid is in curd. And then you've got bases. Sodium hydroxide is in the very soap we use to wash our hands, and ammonium hydroxide is in window cleaner. So this chemistry, it's not locked away in some lab. It's right there in your kitchen and under your sink. So if acids are sour and bases are bitter, it kind of seems like we have a pretty simple way to tell them apart, right? Just a little taste test, or maybe not.
And yeah, this is a huge point, and it comes straight from our source material. As tempting as it might be to try and figure things out by tasting them, tasting unknown substances is incredibly dangerous. Seriously, they could harm you. So the taste test is officially 100% out. Okay, so if we can't trust our taste buds, how in the world are we supposed to tell these chemicals apart? How do we figure out who's who and solve our mystery safely?
Well, the answer is something called an indicator. And you can think of it like a chemical informant. It's the special substance that literally changes color when it bumps into an acid or a base. It gives us this perfect visual clue about the secret identity of whatever it is we're testing. And you know what the best part is? You don't need some fancy, expensive lab to find these indicators. Nature has given us its very own detective kit, and it's full of these amazing color-changing clues. Let's check out a few. Okay, so our first and probably most famous natural indicator is litmus. It's a dye that's extracted from these really fascinating organisms called lichens, which are this cool partnership between a fungus and an alga. This extract is then used to create our go-to testing tool. And the rule here is just brilliantly simple. If you dip a piece of blue litmus paper into an acid, boom, it turns red. If you dip red litmus paper into a base, it turns blue. It's a super clear, simple, and safe way to get our answer. So remember, acid turns blue to red, base turns red to blue. But hey, litmus isn't the only game in town. You can actually make your own indicator right in your kitchen using turmeric. Yep, the very same spice from our opening mystery. All you do is make a paste, spread it on some paper, let it dry, and then cut it into strips. And just like that, you've made your own DIY chemical testing kit. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. When you put a basic solution like soapy water onto that yellow turmeric paper, it turns bright red. That is exactly what's happening on your shirt. The soap is a base, and it's reacting with the turmeric, which is acting as a natural indicator. And there you have it. Mystery solved. And believe it or not, nature isn't done surprising us. An indicator made from China rose petals, you might know them as hibiscus, gives us this absolutely beautiful range of colors. It turns acidic solutions this deep magenta pink and basic solutions a really cool green. I mean, how amazing is that? It's like nature's own little chemistry art project. All right, so we know how to identify acids, and we know how to identify bases. But what happens when these two chemical opposites finally meet? What happens when you actually mix an acid with a base? So to see this, we're going to use a new indicator. This one's synthetic, called phenolphthalein. Let's start with a test tube of acid. Now, when we add a few drops of our indicator, you'll see the solution stays completely colorless. In an acid, phenolphthalein is basically invisible. Okay, now for the really dramatic part. We're going to take a basic solution and start adding it to the acid. very, very slowly. Just one drop at a time, swirling the test tube with each little drop.
We keep adding the base until, wait for it, there. A flash of pink appears, and this time, it stays. This is the exact moment we've been waiting for. That stunning color change tells us that the acid has been perfectly and completely canceled out by the base.
This whole reaction has a name. It's called neutralization. The acid and the base literally destroy each other's chemical properties. You could think of it like this. Acids are on the low end of the pH scale, and bases are on the high end. When they neutralize each other, they create a solution that's, well, neutral, right around a pH of 7. And what are we left with? Two totally new substances, a salt, like regular table salt, and just plain old water. Oh, and this reaction also releases heat, which you could actually feel if you were holding the test tube.
So this is the really crucial part. This isn't just some cool trick you do in a lab. This process of neutralization is happening all around us, and a lot of the time, it's playing the hero in some very practical ways. I mean, think about it. Ever had indigestion? That's usually from too much acid in your stomach. When you take an antacid, you're actually swallowing a base to neutralize that acid and make you feel better. Or what about an ant bite? That stinging feeling comes from formic acid. So if you dab on a little baking soda, which is a base, it neutralizes the acid and soothes the burn. And this same idea works on a massive scale. Farmers treat acidic soil with a base to help their crops grow, and factories use bases to neutralize acidic waste before it gets into our rivers, protecting the environment. It's everywhere. And really, that's the big takeaway here. This constant battle, this push and pull between acids and bases, isn't some far-off concept from a textbook. It's happening inside our own bodies, in our gardens, and in the industries that power our world. It is fundamental chemistry that's shaping our everyday lives. So we solved the mystery of the turmeric stain, and in the process, we uncovered this fundamental chemical reaction that helps keep our world in balance. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other invisible chemistry is out there just shaping your world in ways you haven't even noticed yet? Thanks for joining me on this one.